Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. We have a special episode for you this week. Kimberly and I are the dynamic duo. No third chair to keep us from completely going after one another. So prayers up, folks. We will do a quick dive through some new important news updates, mostly out of DC, although Kimberly's got her news under 5, and it's going to be a smattering of issues from the Commonwealth and elsewhere. Then we're really excited to talk with Savvy Shabazz. He's the founder and head of Life Coach, Each One, Teach One, Re-Entry Fellowship. We're going to talk with him about his work on voting rights, the Black census, and civil rights in general. We're going to close with our action and events calendar with a special plug for a special event happening this weekend that you could still make it to in time. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? Folks know we are a poor state with poor health outcomes, yet we elect a GOP supermajority to do everything possible to cut government services and tribute to lowering the tax burden on rich folks in our Commonwealth. Instead of lowering the cost of insulin or supporting more social workers or raising our pathetically low minimum wage, we have got a gang in Frankfort bound and determined to ending access to abortion care, ending any efforts to increase gun safety in Kentucky. If you think this is completely backwards, we need your voice and your vote. If you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, join Progress Kentucky. It's easy to do. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you spend time on social media. Just make sure to like and share and comment on our content. And if you like what you're hearing here on Kernels of Truth, just give us a thumbs up, leave us a review, or share out the show. So let's get into it, though. As everyone should know, we are not talking heads on the interwebs. We are a digital demonstration for a more compassionate Commonwealth, right? So if it's a demonstration, you need to make sure that, you bring a sign, right? You got to have a sign, or else you're just some guy at a demonstration, not sure why you're there. Maybe you're there as a spy for the other side. I don't know. Why don't you have a sign? Why don't you show what you're there for? So what does your sign say today? Who are you? Where are you? What does your sign say today? So my name is Aaron. I'm coming to you from Childsburg community in Lexington. My sign says, anything is Mitch possible. And that's what I'm going to go with this fine evening. I'm leaning into hope this evening. Kimberly, I see you right there. I hear you right there. How are you doing this fine evening?
Oh my gosh. On that take, you can see the whole kitchen. Yeah. Okay. Like my protest sign says today, I've been reading up on Nikola Tesla, and I think he was on to a lot of things that could really help us today. So I'm going to say, teach Tesla training in schools. It'll make our students and our young people a lot smarter.
Tesla training in school. I do not know what that is. I mean, I know Tesla and electricity, right? And he was had a different view of electricity as Thomas Edison. I think had different view. I don't really know. I do not know. I think there's a movie about it, which is
I do. I know. I've been studying it, and just want to show you right here. I have a Nikola Tesla. This is like what they call the purple. It's all electricity. It's all energy, and when you wear it, or I have a big plate as well. You put your fruits on there. You put it in the refrigerator. I promise you, he was a genius beyond his years. Your fruit will stay fresher longer. It's so weird. It's so weird. And you put your water on top of the plate.
Mm-hmm.
It charges your water. It makes it taste different. Yes, it's we don't use all of our brain.
I'm definitely feeling like you and I are definitely on different wavelengths right now, for sure. I'm not going to accuse anyone of certain brain capacities or anything like that. I'm just saying I am not 100% sure what you're putting down there right now. But I like purple. I'm a big fan. We're trying to turn Kentucky purple. If you're telling me that, Tesla could help us turn Kentucky purple somehow.
Yeah. See, look.
I'm in. All right. So we're going to go now to news of the week, right? We got a few important stories. As folks know, I'm sure folks know, Frankfurt's out of session right now. So a lot of our news is coming from Washington, D.C., where there has been some big news this week. So I'm going to do a couple stories, get Kimberly's feedback on those stories. And then then we'll turn to Kimberly for her news under 5. So, all right. Biggest story, I think, is that there is a bipartisan framework agreement on new gun control measures, right? So obviously after Uvalde, after Buffalo, we were out at the March for Our Lives. A bunch of Progress Kentucky folks showed up. Thank you for coming out. As you know, the past week or so, we've been encouraging folks to show up. So we were out in Frankfurt. Good turnout on an awfully hot day. A lot of really powerful, compelling stories about why we need more gun safety laws. I think our guest from week before, who told her personal tragic story about her son being shot over $50. She was there, and Dina from Moms Demand Action. So really was a powerful event. Apparently Mitch was listening, because we now have this bipartisan framework agreement. 20 senators, 10 Republicans, 10 Democrats. If you're paying attention, the 10 Republicans is really the important piece, because I'm sure this will get filibustered, because everything gets filibustered, because we don't actually make people stand up and talk out a filibuster. They just have to say they'll filibuster. So we need everything take 60 votes in the Senate, and 10 Republicans plus the 50 Democrats gets us to 60 votes. All right. And according to NPR, this deal would make the juvenile records of gun buyers under 21 available when they undergo background checks, right? So, this would be really important, because a lot of these, these horrible mass shootings have been perpetrated by theoretically unstable juveniles, right? So those juvenile records, I think, are important to include there when they do the background checks. It would offer money to states to implement red flag laws that make it easier to temporarily take guns from people considered potentially violent, to bolster school safety and mental health programs as well. So those are important steps, I think, to some degree. Also, it would require more people who sell guns to obtain federal dealer's licenses, right? Which that means they then have to go through the federal background check program. So, a lot of folks are selling guns, but are not federally licensed dealers. So this would really narrow the people who wouldn't need that federal license. So that's important. President Biden said in a statement that the framework, quote, does not do everything that I think is needed, but it reflects important steps in the right direction, and would be the most significant gun safety legislation to pass Congress in decades. So the question is, will Mitch support it? He has said he is comfortable with the framework, and assuming the framework translates into actual legislation, then he's on board. That means that's actually, if he votes for it, that's 11 Republicans, right? So a little wiggle room. But of course, the right wing, which you listen to that list of things, and it's awfully modest, right? It is not doing what, we've got our petition right now. We've got our live action asking people to demand that Mitch, and Rand return their NRA blood money, or donate their NRA blood money, because we don't want money going back to the NRA right now. But also to, ban assault weapons, to increase the age of all gun purchases to 21, to close all background check loopholes, which this gets at some of them, but not all of them. So, we definitely, this is a far cry from what we have been demanding. Again, I would remind you about the filibuster in the Senate, right? So the only thing that's going to happen, that's going to pass, is something that can get those 10 Republican senators to go with it. And, the right wing is lit up right now, calling those 10 and Mitch, rhinos, right? Republicans in name only, because they are sacrificing their 2A rights, right? Like, I don't know how any of the things that we just mentioned sacrifices your Second Amendment rights, but that's what they do, right? They fear and division are their only tools on the right, and so they're using fear and division to go against their own, so they don't ever have any changes in gun safety. So that's a big deal. Of course, we've underscored a number of times how Mitch has basically made his political career in delaying and rejecting gun safety rules. So I think we should take Mitch at his word and we should, and this is going to sound really weird, I think we should thank him. I think we should do the work, make the phone calls, say, hey, we called you about this gun support, the gun legislation. You didn't do what I asked, but I appreciate what you've done. And I hope that it passes, right? So I think I want to lead with a little bit of hope here. And I think the kind of really important thing is we make people a little bit safer. Like, of course, there's no way we're going to get everything we want in one bill. That doesn't exist. That never happens. But if you think about, and I heard an interview with Chris Murphy, who's the Democrat who's like made it his life's work to make some changes in gun safety legislation. He is awfully proud of this framework, and he admitted that it's nowhere close to everything that they want to do or need to do, but it does things that need to be done to make us all safer. So we should celebrate it. We should focus on it. We should get it passed. And then if you think it's not enough, I concur with you. Now go out and find us two more Democratic votes, so we can overturn the filibuster and actually, win on a majority, or get us, 8 more Democratic votes so we can actually overcome a filibuster, right? So that's the only way we get more comprehensive gun safety, is with more Democrats, because the Republicans, as I just said, are going after these 10 Republicans and Mitch because they dared to sign on to this very modest gun safety legislation. So that's my take on this issue, and then it's a very important story. Before we get to our next very important story out of DC, I wanted to check in with Kimberly and see what she thinks. Are you leaning hope, or are you leaning cynical? This isn't nearly enough, and we should, flush them all down the toilet.
Actually, this is a journey in the right direction. I will applaud any lawmaker that is on board, acknowledging that in our country we have more gun-related deaths and injuries because of the systems. So anything that can actually help us with these insidious mass murders and everything else, I'm on board. And I don't care who it comes from. That doesn't mean like I turned Republican overnight or anything. No, but I will support any lawmaker that wants to make a change in the right direction. Aaron.
Hear, hear. Yeah, so we do not have any disagreement on that one. I think it's really critically important. Take the advantage of the opportunity that you have, take what is politically in front of you, and people have worked really hard to get some changes. I'm not going to diminish it. I'm not going to talk smack about it. I'm going to acknowledge the limitations, but I got to acknowledge the entire political limitations of where we are right now, right? And so I'm really concerned that there are people who are going to just see that it's not enough and blame everyone, right? And it's always so much easier to blame both sides, right? Both sides are horrible, so we can't get what we want. Well, that's kind of true. Both sides aren't delivering, but there's one side that's working on it, right? And they are kind of confronted with these institutional challenges that we cannot overcome with the current political makeup. We have got to put more we got to put more progressive voices in the Senate if we want to get the change we want to see. And with midterms looming, I'm really concerned that, folks are going to just see the whole thing, a pox on both houses. We need to move in a different direction, or we're just going to stay home because we haven't seen what we've delivered. We haven't had the kind of promises kept in terms of what people have campaigned on in the past. So at any rate, I think this is a really important step. Obviously, give me a choice, I'd take the House pass measure in a heartbeat, because it did all the things we want to see done in terms of banning AK, the assault rifles, minimum ages, background checks, all those loopholes get closed. But the Senate's the Senate, and the fact that this has been agreed to, I think, is landmark on many levels. All right, so we're going to move to the other big story out of DC, which is, of course, the January 6th investigation. So that what I am calling a bipartisan investigation, because there are 2 Republicans. The rest of the Republicans seem to ignore the fact that there are 2 of their own that are on that committee. Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger in the House have been working very hard for, I think, a year now to investigate January 6th, what happened, how it happened, what led to it. And they have been doing, they've had 2 public hearings now on this, and it's gotten a lot of eyeballs. Millions of people have watched it, except for Fox watchers, because Fox ran it without commercial. It ran while it was on, they talked about it. They did not run it, but they ran a no commercial block of Tucker Carlson so that people would not even during commercials switch over and see with their own eyes what was being presented. And you can, read the Facebook comments. You can tell, the Republicans are just calling it lies and, not actually hearing what occurred and who's saying it, right? Because like the vast majority of voices that have been prominently featured, if you watch these videos or you hear these interviews and the testimony that's been given, they're all Republicans. Some of the most damning stuff was the actual new video of the day of, and all these like Trumpers saying what they're doing and how they're doing it. It was very terrifying, right? Clearly not Antifa. And then, the actual testimony of Bill Barr, who called it all bullshit and said he told that to Trump. And Trump, of course, ignored him because he'd rather listen to his drunk attorney Giuliani, who, of course, that's on the record now that people thought he was drunk when he was giving advice to the president about this issue. And the fact that they called it Team Serious, right? The people in the White House are like, yeah, this is how elections work. And there's nothing here to show that there's a vast conspiracy that, votes have been overturned, right? So it is really it's devastating to watch it all happen. And I think the fact, devastating to the Republicans. So that's why Fox is desperate for their viewers to not actually see it and consume it and hear with their own ears, right? So that I think is something it's a big deal. Obviously, Kentucky played a role. I think some of the first people in the Capitol were from Kentucky, but our own Senator Rand Paul has been calling the January 6th committee hearings a witch hunt, absolutely worthless. Really, this is Rand Paul after he compared the violent insurrection to Louisville's protest for Breonna Taylor's murder at the hands of police, right? He said that those are similar things. He also said in the run-up that the 2020 election was in many ways stolen. So Rand Paul, just to be clear, is absolutely a Trump apologist, absolutely encouraging people to reject what the committee is doing without ever listening to it or hearing it, because he just thinks that the whole thing is, a witch hunt, which, who uses the witch hunt term a lot? Oh, right. That other guy, that previous president. So, to me, at least, it strikes very clearly, that Trump knew that it was a lie. And that he was telling people about, this lie so that he could get them to help him overturn the election, which is basically, it's insurrection. And so I hope that the guy gets, I hope he gets arrested. I hope he gets frog marched. I hope he gets, jail time. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Some people have argued that this hearing, this is not about convincing Rand Paul, because obviously Rand Paul is never going to, believe it, or he chooses not to believe it because he likes playing to that specific political base. But some people are saying that the real audience for all this is, the Attorney General, and that, we really just need to convince him to take the step of bringing charges. But I don't know. Have you watched any of it? What have you found most impactful, Kimberly, and the clips you've seen, or have you actually watched it directly? Are you going to be watching more of it?
I haven't really had the opportunity to sit there and actually look at it, minute by minute, but I catch the main highlights on YouTube. And I'm going to tell you the most impactful thing to me was Liz Cheney. How she put the dots together and what they were going to be presenting to the American people, actually to the international world. I think it's great, but there was an opinion column, Aaron, in USA Today that I ran across, and I thought I would just tell just a couple of things that this person was talking about. Like, they're saying that it was abhorrent, it was horrible, this insurrection. I called it a coup from the very, very beginning, and people tried to shut me up and shut me down when I called it a coup. Now all of the information is coming out, and it definitely is and was a coup. So one of the things that people are saying is that it's only two Republicans on the January 6th committee, that we're doing this extremely close to election time, and we're trying to change the narrative ahead of the elections. And also, They're talking about how they're putting it out. Like one woman who was a conservative commentator, um, the Wall Street Journal, Kimberly Strassel. I don't think I particularly know her, but she's noted that the way the committee chooses to conduct its depositions different from most. She had agreed months ago, but yet they put it out on the media like, she was resisting some type of way. And then the other thing that they speak of is that why didn't we do this sooner? What was the long wait about? I believe it was because you want to gather evidence as much as you possibly can so that you have an airtight case. However, some people are saying it just has taken too long. What do you think about that, Aaron?
Yeah, in terms of the timing, like they were investigations take a while. The fact that so many of these Trump associated witnesses were trying to avoid offering their testimony, right? And a couple got arrested, like violation of Congress, right? So yeah, I think it's really, it takes time. The justice, the amount of time it takes to investigate this stuff is going to always take much longer than you would hope. Or if you're not involved with criminal prosecutions and investigations, yeah, you're always going to think it's to be quicker. But no, it takes forever. They're, of course, I think they're hurrying, right? Because they want to get this done and boxed up and ready to go completely before November. Because if all the political prognostication is correct and the House is going to flip, then this gets shut down the second that the Republicans are in control, right? The second Kevin McCarthy, heaven help us all, is the Speaker of the House, this thing gets stopped in its tracks, right? So they are hurrying to get it all done and out before November is what I think. So, but it's a good point.
Most definitely. And one of the other things about it, as I think about these hearings, also, there was complaint that there was not another, what you want to call the defense attorneys, to rebuke or explain some of the things that the Democrats were putting out.
Defense attorneys, this is not actually, this is not a court trial, right? This is, so,
Right.
if you wanted to go that route, that was the impeachment, which of course they didn't actually allow a hearing in the Senate. It was unfortunately, it was kind of a joke what Mitch allowed to move forward with in the Senate. Anyway, so this really important stuff, everyone needs to just remember and share. I put a link to the Twitter machine there in the comments and Facebook. If you want to share out that tweet, because it is like, we got to make sure everyone knows what Rand is saying about this, right? And I get it. People are like, oh, I don't want to look back at what happened. Oh, you don't want to look at how a sitting, rejected, losing president tried to steal the presidency for 4 years. Like, you don't want to look into that. You want to see that happened and make sure it doesn't ever happen again. Like, I'm sorry, you are anti-democratic and you are a problem. Like this, we have to get to the bottom of this, and we have to make sure there are more guardrails to ensure, you know what this was? This failed coup? It was practice, right? So, if we don't fix what is clearly been exposed as weaknesses in our democratic system, they are going to absolutely overwhelm them next time, and they will steal an election. That some big lie supporter in Nevada just got won the Republican nomination for attorney general or for secretary of state in Nevada, right? So that's a toss-up state. So Nevada, a toss-up state, could have an election, big lie proponent who is going to just do everything they can to deliver Nevada's electoral votes to the Republican, no matter what the actual votes say. If that doesn't make you frightened for our democracy, well, you probably think this whole thing's a witch hunt, right? So anyway, we should get to news number 5. You got some important stories to cover, Kimberly.
Yes, Aaron, Miss Deborah Grainer, she's saying that we are frozen.
We're not. I'm watching. I've got it live on my computer, and we're fine. So I think
Okay.
Deborah might need to restart or something. But
Okay. Well, news in five, real quick here, guys. Number one, forever chemicals are threatening the drinking water in 38 water systems across the Kentucky, including Louisville. We always thought it was safe, but today the United States Environmental Protection Agency is revising that risk and saying that these PFASs, uh, now they're considering it to be adverse health risk. So I suggest that everybody goes and gets filters. It's, buy your bottled water, distilled water, spring water, boil your water. You got to drink water. So I don't know if we can trust the taps anymore. Then the second thing here is that there's been a 14.5% increase in overdoses here in Kentucky. uh, Everything was in, it all tallied up. And in 2021, we had a 14.5% increase. Now, let me explain just very, very quickly on this that a lot of times those that are, drug takers, that type of, they know how much they need to feel whatever way that they do. I used to be a targeted case manager, certified right here in the great Commonwealth. And one thing that I had studied and that I had most definitely I've seen is that they know right to the point how much, and but it's the fentanyl, guys. It's the fentanyl. They're cutting everything with fentanyl, and that's how we're getting these increases in overdoses. It's not like the majority of them are suicides or anything of that nature. A lot of our college students are young people taking one pill of whatever type and dying right then and there. It's the fentanyl. Fentanyl is for elephants. And I'm a big girl, but I'm not as big as an elephant. I hope if I do, Aaron will be like, Kim, you got to do something. So, next on the agenda is our Kentucky Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, is now seeking to sue the cabinet of Governor Beshear's over abortion law. Uh, can he just kind of sit back and see what the Supreme Court is going to do? It just seems like he is just hell bent on these continuous court proceedings with our governor and his administration. So that's not really surprising, but I just wanted to let y'all know he's at it again. Now, Governor Beshear, love that man. You know what? He just announced that tomorrow, 44,000 of Nestle's specialty formula. So for you mothers out there, that's enough for 548,000 8-ounce bottles of infant formula for you. So it's coming through Louisville and it will be distributed. And then there's going to be more coming as well. And I know that that's been like a subject that we talk about and then we don't talk about, but there are a lot of mothers out here nursing, and then there are some mothers that can't nurse for whatever reason, and they need the formula. And my goodness, I never thought in this life that we would ever have a shortage of infant formula for our mothers and the babies out here. So Kentucky has done its first double transplant, the first in the world. Mr. Michael Monday of Graham, Kentucky, back in March, he did receive at the same time a new liver and a new heart. So maybe, just maybe, Kentucky is putting itself back on the map as far as the medical breakthroughs that we've always been known for here in Kentucky. Heart transplants, the double hand transplants, and so many others. So I just wanted to tell you all something good. And then also enjoy yourself this weekend. But according to various meteorologists and a lot of doctors, it's going to be hot this weekend all over Kentucky. Probably the heat index about 10 to 12 degrees above actually what it is. So I know you want to go out and celebrate and eat some good food and be around your friends, but wear loose clothing, stay hydrated, continuously drink your water, and make sure you have extra water on you. And I just like to say to Aaron, happy Father's Day coming up this weekend. To Nate Dogg, to Dougie Fresh, to all of the fathers out here, I commend you. And even if you don't actually have a child, but you've got your dog or your cat, you know that's your child too. So happy Father's Day to everyone out there, and happy Father's Day to women like me that had to be the mom and the dad in the family, and we did pretty damn good raising our kids. So happy Father's Day to you, Aaron.
Thank you, Kimberly. And yeah, happy Father's Day to you. My, heroes, single moms, like, I do not know how it gets done. Like, I feel like I barely am hanging on with, a pretty together team. I mean, I'm not together, but my wife is.
I had a supportive family. I really did. I had a supportive family, and I had children that never really gave me any problems. And I instilled in them work ethics, education. And the only problem I really had was my daughter, being a teenager. They just, mothers and daughters, they just don't click in the teenage years as much as you would like. But now I have to admit that now that my father and my grandfather and all of them are gone, that I buy my son a Father's Day gift for the last, 3 years now, because he's 31 and he acts like he's my father. Mom, you don't need to be doing that. Mom, stay off the phone. Mom, I'm going to take your phone away from you. I mean, like, when did that happen?
That's awesome. All right. So, hey, appreciate that. And Nate, I hope that Addie gets you something nice, or maybe Langston and Zola go in on something. I also want to give a quick shout out to Brenda in the comments. So, Brenda, thank you for joining the live stream. Thank you for adding your 2 cents. Really amazing that your sister had pancreas and kidney transplant at the same time at the UK hospital. Impressive stuff, really amazing stuff. So Kentucky continuing to lead the way. All right, so we are going to now, that was news under 5. I didn't time it. Doug's the one who likes to time it. I think he's driving right now, so he probably wasn't timing it. But we are going to, that was closing out news of the week with some happy, helpful, hopeful news there at the end. Thank you, Kimberly. Now we're going to go to our guest. Really, as I said earlier in the show, really excited to bring on Savvy Shabazz, life coach, Each One, Teach One, Reentry Fellowship. So Savvy is somebody that was recommended through the community. Somebody who's a member along with Progress Kentucky of the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement crew. And I know that Savvy does really, really important work, because we were both fortunate enough to do some work on kind of economic canvassing and talking to people about how the economy is working for them. And the numbers that Savvy put up, getting out there talking to folks one-on-one, was really just phenomenal. So, but he has been really leading the way on voter registration, re-registration for folks, previously incarcerated folks who have gotten their voting rights back. So we want to hear from him about his work, and also I think he was doing some stuff on the Black Census Project, which I'd like to hear more about as well. So Savvy, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me into the space and granting me the opportunity to share some of the work that I've been doing over the last couple of years. I'm really grateful to be in this space. And again, thank you for inviting me in. I'm Savvy Shabazz. I am founder and CEO of Life Coach Each One, Teach One, and Reentry Fellowship, which I must say was actually founded and designed in my prison cell at Green River Correctional Complex. I was sentenced to a total of 28 years in McCracken County. I'm originally from Paducah, Kentucky. I had the opportunity to actually move here 12 years ago through what I call a government vacation, where they pay for your clothing, your food, all your utilities, and place you out on the sidewalk with about $3 or $4 and ask you to just make it on your own, right? So that was some of the work that I actually done leading up to the voting rights. I worked for organizations as the Urban League. I had an opportunity to build out an initiative, Zones of Hope, which was an initiative that worked with young Black men and boys to improve the livelihood and outcomes of individuals in some disenfranchised neighborhoods. I moved on to Reimage, which was under Kentucky in the Works, working with individuals in the court system and giving them the leadership skills and the employment and educational leads that they needed to continue to be successful. I moved on to a leadership position at Jefferson Community and Technical College, where I was Assistant Director of Student Success and Community Engagement. That was kind of long. I'm surprised I still remembered that. I got to do some violence prevention work with Pivot to Peace along the way. Became a case manager with the Bail Project, and the last opportunity I had, I was a program director for a Center for Employment Opportunities here in Louisville for the entire site. I never gave up on Life Coach Each One Teach on Renju Fellowship. I would come home at 5, 6 o'clock, take a break, and go right at it again up until 12 o'clock. We met, of course, through some of our civic engagement organizations that we're connected with. It was doing great work. You gave me a lot of praise there, but I couldn't do the work without the assistance of everybody that's involved with CAVE and KSET as well across the state. So I wanted to, I've been in this, that was something that me and my mother done every year, and I look forward to it. We got to the polls. She made sure I got to the polls, right? And 2002, I became a felon, and I lost my right to vote. What that looks like and what really pushed me out there, I lost my right to vote. This year, 2022, was the first time I voted since then for nonviolent drug offenses in the state of Kentucky. Under that law, I would have had to wait an additional 5 years once you complete your sentence. This is the language that we use. Once you complete your sentence, you will have to wait an additional 5 years just to apply to C. So that means if I finish my sentence in 2026, I would have to wait an additional 5 years, 2031, just to apply to get my voting rights back. That's disenfranchisement from 2002 to 2031, right? It's ridiculous. One of the problems that we're having here in Kentucky and a lot of rural counties is individuals are being over-sentenced. We talk that language about individuals finishing their sentence, completing their sentence. Not in my case, and not in a lot of people that I was incarcerated with. Not in their case. We never finished those sentences. In Kentucky, if you have if you're trying to get an expungement for a drug trafficking charge, you can never get that expunged off of your record. That's what pushed me into to applying for a pardon in 2020 through Governor Andy Beshear. Some of the work that we did that led up to that, connected with some national organizations, FICPFM, formerly incarcerated and convicted people and families movement, Vote NOLA, Just Leadership USA, and a host of other national organizations that consist of formerly incarcerated people across the nation. Even All of Us Are None, as you can see the banner and the flag behind me, I hang it high, is doing a lot of work with restoring justice and reinterest and just justice reform overall. So we connected with those organizations across the nation, and they encouraged me to continue to go back and get everybody else and make sure that they're registered to vote. Of course, we had that opportunity here in Kentucky in December 2009 when Governor Andy Beshear signed the executive order that restored 170,000+ people the right to vote. So my question was, then I was doing the work, but how are we going to notify these people? How are we going to get these people to the polls? It wasn't just about talking to the individuals, but we got to check your status. So a link was created for us to not only check their status, but we could register them right there on the spot. We could check their status. We had access to a list thanks to some of the organizations we're connected with. And I knew I have relationships in my hometown, Paducah, Kentucky. I have relationships in Lexington. I have relationships in Louisville, Madisonville, and Hopkinsville as well. How can I utilize this list and get people registered to vote and get people to the polls? I had to find leadership. I went on Facebook. I know people in Hopkinsville. I had to find someone that knew everybody who was just invested inside the community of Hopkinsville and Paducah as well. And I looked at the list, and once we condensed the list, there was about 30 individuals on that list that I was related to or I was friends with. I knew exactly where they lived. The phone numbers, I had them already in my phone. How can we get these people to register? So we hired a organizer, Cinnamon Watts. She's on another call with Dream Corps currently right now as we speak. And we went to work. We had to plan an agenda. So we designed what we call we had a toolkit. We used social media. We used what we call pop-ups. These are some of our tools. We popped a tent. We had 2 tables, 2 chairs. We had a tablecloth. We had swag, meaning ink pens, tablets, anything, any kind of information, brochures that you could think of telling you the importance of getting to the polls, but also voter protection. That's a big thing, making sure that you're protected while you're in the polls, the type of identification that you need. We have this information for people, and we call them pop-ups. So you may catch us at a gas station. We built relationships with barbershops and hair salons because we know in our communities, this is a place where everybody are going to come in, especially like Thursday through Saturday. It's prime time at a barbershop or hair salon. So we want to reach people where they're at. And we want to discuss that. These are also subjects that people talk about while they're in the hair salon and barbershops: politics, education, employment, anything, sports, anything that you can think of is being talked about. So we want to utilize and build those relationships. I'm really big on building and maintaining relationships. And that's what pushed me to continue to do the work with voter restoration, registration, education, and engagement. That's the biggest piece, is engaging people, actually talking to people, canvassing, knocking on doors, phone banking, text banking. I have over 1,200 contacts in my phone. They get texts about registering to vote, getting to the polls. So we got to utilize the tools. That cell phone is one of the most important things that we have. We all have them. We have the world right in the palm of our hands. So we got to utilize that. Doing that work, yes, I was disenfranchised. I could not vote, but that did not stop me at all from getting other people to the polls, because it was bigger than me, right? It's bigger than my personal issue with being disenfranchised. We have to get other people to the polls to be able to get people, communities to change, and be able to change the state to get it to look the color that we need it to look, right? And I'm talking about red or blue, right? I also had the opportunity in that process when he signed that executive order. He asked me, Governor Andy Beshear, he said, "Savvy, did we restore your vote?" And I told him, I said, no. And he didn't understand why he didn't, because he knew my situation. And I told him, I said, I was over sentenced. I probably will never walk my time down and get to see that and wait that additional 5 years. And he asked me to get a partner across his desk, and he will see if he can take care of that. So, of course, he's our governor. He said that. So we got to hold him to that too, right? That's why people voted for him, to hold him accountable. And that's a big thing, is accountability. So we got the application out. It was a process with that. We even included that in our agenda when we wrote our agenda for this year. We assist individuals with applying for their pardon, and we have been successful with 3 people that received a pardon last year that we assisted. We put a team together. On social media. We got out. We stomped. That's another word for canvassing. That's one of the terms we use in our toolkit. Stomping neighborhoods, meaning we're knocking on doors, we're meeting people. We even went to Paducah and we designed a parade that we went to some historical places in Paducah, and we drove up to the courthouse where our poll location was at. And we had a poll party in the back of the parking lot and gave people information, water, tips, snacks, you name it. We have to do the work to be able to get people to the polls. And again, registering people is part of the work. That's one of the first steps. We have to engage people and get people to the polls. I got a phone call. It took about 10 months to do. We called, we hashtagged, we used the @ symbol on Twitter. I remember one weekend, I registered 64 people. And there was a tweet that went out that said, Governor Beshear, Savvy registered 60 plus people in your state today. He's making your state better. Are you going to let this brother vote? Maybe the next week, I got a phone call from his office, and the individual said that they received over 300 phone calls, emails, whatnot about this pardon that I applied for. And this is how community works. I asked for 55 letters of recommendation for the pardon. I received about 14. all across the nation. And what we did was we put that legislation in a position to where they had to tell me yes. And he interviewed me. He asked me about the work that I was doing and told him. He said he would call back in a few days, and there would be somebody else on that call. Well, that was that Thursday, November the 12th, about 2:10 p.m. And I received a phone call from Governor Andy Beshear, and he said he wanted to sign my pardon right there on the phone. He would do it in person, but we was under COVID restrictions, and he signed that pardon. And 2 weeks later, I was immediately removed off of parole, and my charges were removed off of my record. And I'm still here fighting. It's 2 years later. We're still here fighting because we still have a host of people that we have to go get those in the same situation that I had. We want to grant those people the opportunity too. So there's an African term called Sankofa. It's the bird. It looks kind of like an eagle, and it has its neck turned completely around. It means reach back. It means go back and help others. And I never thought that I would have the opportunity to find passion and be compassionate about the work that I do. And I'm simply just helping others. We focus on reentry and justice reform. We help other organizations build policy and bills out. We lobby up in Frankfurt and build those relationships with legislation. We work with not only formerly incarcerated people, but we work with currently incarcerated people as well, and get those individuals prepared for their return back to their families and communities as well. That's just a summary of just some of the work that we do and some of the work that I've done, especially in the field of voting restoration and voting rights.
That's amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for your leadership in that space. And glad to hear that when you got that pardon, you didn't just like, all right, I'm done. It sounds like I love your commitment to your community and working hard to make sure that folks, know about their rights and take advantage of them. And Kimberly, I know these are issues that are really important to you. I want to see if you got any questions for Savvy.
Yes, I'm like, what can I do to help? I mean, this is something even we just discussed in the Democratic Party here in Jefferson County, as far as us wanting, as we put together campaign coordination, as we do on the executive committee. And these are things that we were asking as far as how can we get the new addresses? How can we go through these listings? But there's already someone that has that together. We just need to come to you.
So in regards to that list that we got, we met and we understand there was only 30% of that list that was correct. People complained about having the 30%. We didn't complain one bit, because we'll take that 30% before we'll take 0%. So there was a lot of work. We still don't have a lot of the addresses. I just know where people live. If I'm looking for, I see one of my friends on the call. If I'm looking for Anthony Ellison in Paducah, I know he's going to be in his gym, or I know where he lives at. I also know where his sisters live at as well. To me, it's just all about building relationships. I looked through that list. We knew people on that list, and we knew where to go to catch people.
That's awesome. The relational organizing, the community organizing, like using all your networks to build bigger networks to, get the work done. That, even in our kind of social media driven age, like that stuff gets just, those actual human connections matter so much. So yeah, what else can we do? How can people help support the work that you are doing right now, Savvy?
We kicked off our voting registration and education campaign in March, and I traveled back and forth from Louisville to Paducah. Cinnamon, of course, is in Hopkinsville. Come and join us. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. My information, I'm sure Aaron has my information. You can post my information in there. Link up with us. It's Savvy, and all of us are none and life coach is not going to be able to change this state by himself. We have to build coalitions. We have to really take advantage of the relationships that we have with individuals and organizations. Building coalitions is what put me in the position that I am today. Shaking hands and rubbing elbows with people, meeting and greeting people. That's what builds it out. I always tell people all the time, your net worth is your network.
That's awesome.
I never throw a business card away. I got a stack sitting actually right here that I have to put in my Google contacts. And I'll reach out to those individuals. Hey, I met you 2 weeks ago at a conference and such. Looking forward to working for you in the future. Those are not just business cards; those are people.
Yeah, well, I know that Progress Kentucky has people. We have folks who want to help out, so we would love to, absolutely connect with you and see how we can support your work in this lead up to, this very critical election in November. Got to build a bigger network. That's how how we're going to win for sure. So
For sure.
I know that you have like multiple commitments that you are juggling right now. So, I don't know if you've got time to give us the quick, thumbnail sketch of what's going on with the Black census. I'm very
Yes.
intrigued by it, but I'd love to hear a bit about it and what you're doing.
So we connected with the Black Futures Lab over a month ago, and it's a national organization collecting census from Black people in Black communities. A lot of times we're caught in conversations where our voices are not heard and decisions are made in our communities. One of the things that we ran across, one of the terms, and I know you were involved with that too, was redistricting in Kentucky. A lot of times we don't have, and that's a prime example, we don't have any say-so in what happens to our communities. Like, this is our community. We should have a say-so about who is going to be our representative, right? Opposed to someone else that's never even been our community, just moving around chess pieces and moving who out and moving whoever they want to be in that doesn't even have a relationship with that community. So it's a great census. There's a lot of good questions in that census. I have my own personal link. You can find that on my Facebook page as well. And we also have a scanned QR code that you can scan as well. I would advise you to go on my Facebook page that you can find the post there. And you can utilize our link and our QR code, and you can take that Black census and you can have your voices heard throughout your communities across the nation.
Absolutely. Very cool stuff. And I know you have to go to get to your other thing, but just thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thanks for sharing it with us. We would definitely love to keep in contact, love to keep in network, and keep the exchange happening.
I'm going to get involved, though. I'm going to get involved. So I'll get your information from Aaron.
Thank you. And thank you for having me again. I look forward to seeing you. I know I'll see you on the call soon, Aaron.
Absolutely. Thanks, Abby. All right. So we are going to close out now. We've got our action events calendar. Just a couple of items. Do you want me to do these, Kimberly, or do you want to do these, or how do we want to end this?
You can go ahead and do the call to action. I'll do the close.
And you do the close. All right. There we go. So thanks again to Savvy for joining us. Our call to action right now, today, there's still a chance for you to make plans to go to Washington, D.C. for the Poor People's March on Washington. It's happening this Saturday. It's happening June 18th. There's a bus leaving from Lexington. There are currently 17 seats remaining on that bus, and it leaves Friday morning. It's $180 for a round-trip ticket to head to the Capitol for a peaceful march for justice. A peaceful march for justice, as opposed to January 6th, a big lie-fed, insurrection. So from cool. Bishop William Barber, who we know is just an amazing leader in this space, he is saying this is not just a day of action. It is a declaration of an ongoing, committed moral movement to, 1, shift the moral narrative, 2, build power, and 3, make real policies to fully address poverty and low wealth from the bottom up. That is a quote from Bishop Barber and Reverend Dr. Liz Theo-Harris. What we know is that any nation that ignores nearly half its citizens is in a moral, economic, and political crisis. There are 140 million people who are poor or in one emergency away from economic ruin before the pandemic. Since March 2020, while hundreds of thousands of people have died, millions are the edge of hunger and eviction, and still without health care or living wages. Billionaire wealth, meanwhile, has grown by trillions of dollars. The need for justice is clear. Add your voice and get to Washington. I know this is it's asking a lot to get to Washington, but there's room on the bus. It's relatively affordable to get there, and it is a historic call to action that I think, as much as possible, people should respond to. So that's a big one. Then a easier lift is our poll. We are at 190 plus responses. We really want to hit 500 responses. I know that's a lot. We would love for you to take 5 minutes right now and help us pick the worst actions of this terrible, horrible, no good, very bad legislature. And we really want to get to 500 so we can share it with the media. With some credibility. Hey, this is what this is what people think about the legislature and what they did in Frankfurt and what that GOP supermajority is doing to our Commonwealth. I challenge. It's not a fun 10 minutes to take that poll because you have to be confronted and reminded of all the horrible things that they did in Frankfurt with that GOP supermajority. But you get to pick your top three. So at any rate, so please do take action on that one. And now I think I'll throw it over to Kimberly Cecil Jones for our close.
Thank you, Aaron. Great shout out to Savvy, and he was a wonderful guest, so full of information. And I belong to the Black Futures Lab as well. They do incredible work. And I just want to say that we have a guest for you next week. You guys know her. If you don't know her, you need to get to know her. I call her Big Sis. Such a wonderful woman. State Representative Colonel Pamela Stevenson of the 43rd District will be with us next week. And I hope you all will come and join us because she will bring us some really good information about what's going on in Frankfurt as far as the redistricting and some other things that are on the table that you may not know about. And just want to do the disclaimer, as I have to do every week, that Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4, and is affiliated with the Indivisible Project and or the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, otherwise known as CAVE. And Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Production this evening was done by our own Nate Dogg, as I affectionately call him, but Nate Orshan. He did a wonderful, fantastic job tonight. And I guess my turn will be coming up sooner or later. I guess I got to learn how to do it. So also just want to let you know that the theme song and everything that you've been jamming to all the time when you look at our show is by our own Nate. And you can find more of those songs on his website, which is natosongs.com. It will be in the description below in the comments. It is natosongs.com. Make sure you go there. And then also, if you miss our weekly live stream for whatever reason, you were supposed to be home by 7 p.m., right? Do not fret, my pet. You can go on our Progress Kentucky Facebook page and you can see the content there. Also, if you're at work or you're doing your yard work, hopefully not underneath the beaming sun early in the morning, I hope, you can listen to what we've been talking about on all major streaming services like your Spotify, your Apple, so on and so forth, Google. So we'll be there. And also we would like to say to you that the logo and some graphics were done by Couchfire Media. You can go see their content at couchfiremedia.com. I just want to tell everybody, to all the guys and the single moms and grandmothers, grandfathers, happy Father's Day. Enjoy yourself this Sunday. You deserve it. Yes, you do. And while you're at it, do something nice for somebody. It won't cost you a dime to do that, to have a smile or pay it backwards, right? You go to McDonald's, you get your coffee, pay for the person behind you for their coffee, right? It'll make you feel so good. Until then, we'll see you next week. Same time, same back channel with Colonel Pam Stevenson.